Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
And we get the back view of him. And I mean, it's just a mega.
52 yards is a long shot. Magnum PI, what we named him. No idea.
Just a magnum.
Yeah, just a magnum.
Come on, Cam, last year we said probably 150, mid 150.
Yeah.
Same doe from the morning come out with that 9-pointer.
Here steps out this 90-inch 8-pointer. You're like,
I'm like, okay, well, there's still a buck back there grunting.
Yeah.
And then out steps like another 90-inch 8-pointer. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like, deer, right there.
Yeah, like
and he's already
yards.
30 yards.
Yeah.
He was literally 5 yards from the base of the tree. Could have been, had a buck down at 1:40 in the afternoon, back there deep on public. 3 does come out pretty early. It was like 245, 24-yard shot, sent the combat veteran, and I tell you what, man, dude, it just smoked. We always get so jacked up when the other person kills. It's just almost like we got it done.
Yeah. And when you killed that doe, I was like, hell yeah, man.
And we come down here to Missouri.
I asked Comey one more time. I'm like, is it a good buck? And he goes, yeah, real good, solid buck. I'm like, all right, boom. And the deer just drops. Sure. Super special to me.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy. Baller Rut.
All right, here we go. Another episode coming in your ear holes on a Wednesday, hopefully, if you're catching it right off the rip, right off the grill, right off the fresh-ass prime rib. All right, we got Bed to Dead, Jason Campbell on, covering some really solid tactics, some really good passion about just going in on public and getting it done.
Yep.
If you're a public land hunter, if you're a mobile hunter, some gear talking here. A lot of good public land tactics, how he goes about going in there and finding these deer. Just a super solid dude. I think we could hang out with this guy and talk whitetail for a long time. All right, let's get into the people to make this possible. Get in the show. Start off with VIP. Remember that the combat veteran blades are available now, so you can get the fresh combat veterans coming at you. Get a hold of Matt, Cindy, VIP website. Place your orders, and the new veteran or the old 2-blade veteran is $35 a pack now. So if you guys are looking for a broadhead to try out this year, $35, pretty safe bet. You're gonna love it. You got the VIP shout out.
Yeah, this week's shout out is Christopher Rutledge. Christopher was in the Navy for 6 years, and he was discharged after he had the bottom part of his leg is now missing. So Christopher has definitely sacrificed for this country, and he said he still finds his passion in the outdoors, which is great to hear. So Christopher, you've been through a lot with that, and we appreciate you signing up. And I hope your passion for the outdoors is more than it has been, and you still gonna get out there and enjoy everything, man.
Yeah, huge shout out to you, man. Giving a huge sacrifice for this country, me and my family. Big shout out from the Whitetail Legacy podcast crew, even the interns in the back controlling the heat.
Yeah.
It's a little warm in here today. They need to cool it off. And the VIP family and Matt and Cindy. ECW calls, all your custom call needs, turkey, goose, duck, deer. He's got it all. EmbryCustomWoodworking.com. Check him out. Exodus trail cams. You got the trail cam tip of the week.
Yeah, the trail cam tip of the week is know whether your trail cam that you have is going to be a red flash or a no flash or black flash. You're going to want them red flash cams, in the timber for the nighttime. The red flash is going to be a lot brighter when it goes off at night. That no flash is going to be a little dimmer, so that'd be a good cam to put out there on the field edge. That's something that you can overlook. And, easy to overlook, especially early season when the foliage is up. You're going to need that cam to give all the flash that it's got. So it's going to have less noise in the image and the video with the red flash having all the extra light out there.
Yeah, check them out, ExodusOutdoorGear.com. One thing I think we should mention is a lot of these trail cam tips are coming from Exodus theirself.
All of them.
Yeah, so they have a ton of great content on their YouTube. And this is just a way that what we have learned from them.
Mm-hmm.
We just are regurgitating to you.
I was gonna say, I'm not up here just spitballing.
Yeah,
I mean, this is facts from them.
This is facts from the professionals. So I just thought we should shout that out. Huge shout out them for supporting the podcast and for making an awesome product and just being solid dudes.
And just putting this information out there
Yeah,
for
for
everybody
regular
to know.
guys like us to know, because a regular guy ain't gonna be like, oh, red flash, black flash.
Yeah, be like, yeah. Okay.
Until you
Be
hear
like,
someone,
deer's not gonna see it, cool. But
Yeah.
then you put in the timber and you're like, well, I screwed myself.
yeah, until you figure out what you actually need and someone explains it. Just kind of like this podcast, he goes into some tactics where he actually breaks down and not just what people say. So
Yeah, on that particular segment, Chad was going into like shutter speed and exposure. I'm like, holy shit! Like, I mean, it is deep.
he knows his
Yeah.
stuff. So, all right, let's get into next level deer supplements. You can check out them at nextleveldeer.com. You can get mineral blocks, mineral or feed, mineral. They released a great video on their YouTube. If you're not following their YouTube, about how to set up a mineral site. This is something that I know zero about, so I watched the video and I learned something. It's something that we can't do here. So, there's a lot of good details in that about what you should do and what you shouldn't do. You can check them out on YouTube and get some really solid content from there.
Yeah, I like how it was short, sweet, to the point. Not a 10-minute video of just dragging it out right there. Whatever
87 transitions and
Yeah.
All right, Ingram's Outdoor Obsession. All your taxidermy needs. Words out. Ingram didn't get a turkey this year either, man.
No.
He hunted hard. He filmed a
He
couple
did.
get smashed.
Yes.
But yeah, he wasn't successful. So we're not the only guys out there struggling. And he told me, he's like, it was good that it happened this way because I've had 2 good lucks with turkey and I needed a bad year to humble myself and make me want it more next year. So
Does he feel like this is like the bad part, and then his deer season is going to be
that's what
as
we
bad
keep saying.
as it was,
That's what
like
keep
we are?
saying. I don't know. He killed 2 bucks last year.
I know.
So we'll see what happens.
Take the
He's-
scratch turkey
he's
season,
got a,
double
he's
buck
got
again.
a good plan in. He's got food plots in already. Guy's crushing the game. So
Yeah.
all your taxidermy needs, Ingram's Outdoor Obsession. He has you covered. All right, let's get into the show. All right, we got Jason Campbell on the line from Bed to Dead. How you doing tonight, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Just sat down, poured a drink, and excited to learn something from you. We're going to talk a little Michigan public land hunting. Like I said, we had an episode like this before, and it did really well. Our listeners really enjoy hearing about Michigan and the high pressure and what you guys do to get past that. And we have a lot of Michigan listeners. I think there's just so many hunters in Michigan. It's got to be pretty cool up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's public land is definitely a challenge here, and seems like the mobile hunting aspect of it here is starting to, or in the last couple of years, has really caught fire, and which is a good thing. So.
Yeah, the mobile hunting everywhere is really picking up. We started 3 years ago, and from when we started to now, we were probably like 80% pre-hung stands the first year. Now we're probably 70-30 hanging hunt, 70%, 30%. Those ladder stands and stuff that you got where you got to be, or those double man sets that you have hung, we still utilize those on the private. But we don't have any pre-hung stands on public.
Nope.
So.
And like when we started out, when you were going to pack in, you're like, I'm going to do something,
Yeah.
like it was a chore, but now it's just like, all right, we're going to go hang and hunt.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some gear in this episode too, and that's where it changed for us when we bought a little better gear. We were packing in big game stands and sticks, you know what I mean, or summit climbers
heavy,
and stuff.
Heavy and bulky.
Yeah, not good, loud, heavy, bulky, didn't super hard to hang, but we got better, got system down, but we'll go ahead and let the listeners learn a little bit about you. So
you give a little background about myself. I grew up in a pretty big hunting family. My family wasn't as crazy, I guess, or obsessed about hunting as I was. My grandpa, I think he just kind of liked being out with the guys. Passed it along to my dad, and my dad he got the bug a little harder than my grandpa had, and would really try to be successful. And of course, you know, as a youngster watching my dad do it, I followed right along in his footsteps, and he was the best hunter I knew. So he was always killing a buck every year. And back when I first started hunting, it wasn't about the size. It was just, if it was brown, it was down. If it had a rack on it and it was a legal deer to take, you know, you would take them. And I want to say in the early years, you could shoot 2 bucks during gun season and 2 bucks during bow season. So you could shoot
Wow.
4 bucks total. And I don't remember there being an age restriction or an antler restriction on them back in the day. I mean, it's been so long, and I was quite young when this happened. But I tagged along with him, and he was what I would consider be a hands-on dad. He wanted me to be with him and taught me the basics as a youngster, like what a deer track was, what runs were in trails, what rubs were. But he wasn't really into trying to, I mean, all hunters, I guess, try to kill big bucks, but he was happy with seeing bucks. And I don't think that he really interpreted big rubs and like we do now when we break it down to a completely different aspect of hunting. And that was fine for me at first. I mean, it was just about killing deer. And after several years of that, I want to say it was about 2003, I shot a decent basket rack and hung my bow up and just kind of was like, that was cool. And I remember thinking right after it happened, like, what do you mean that was cool? Like, normally you're geeked out of your head and, you know, there's something going on, you know, like, you know, you get that shaky feeling, you got to sit down. And I knew that I needed to progress as a hunter, and I'd always wanted to kill that elusive big buck. And here in Michigan, which is different than most other states, most guys go a lifetime without killing a Pope and Young class animal on private, let alone public. So it makes it very, very, it's kind of like a lifetime achievement award for a lot of guys. And I'd never seen one out of all my dad's friends hunting. I'd never even seen one on the back of somebody's tailgate growing up as a kid and going through it. So I kind of set a pretty lofty goal for myself, and my dad kind of thought I was a little crazy. And during this time, I knew that being mobile was the key, and I really went to look for the best mobile setup I could find. And like most other people that have gotten into it, I bought my very first lone wolf stand, which was an assault and a 3-pack of sticks. Eventually ended up purchasing the 4th stick later on, but that was my mobile setup, and it completely changed the game for me, because not only could I get into any tree, I could get there quietly. It was half the work. It was, you know, the lightest weight. Like, it was so compact. To me, it was very game changing. And after scouting and really putting forth the effort, I shot my first Pope and Young animal in 2004. Ended up scoring just over 132, I think now. And there was no going back after that. That was it. Like that was what started the journey. Then I knew I was never going to be able to shoot a deer, to me, that just wasn't going to get me excited anymore. And I had reached a point in my hunting career that was like it. Like that was it. That was what I was born to do, so to speak.
Yeah, we feel you there. We get that question a lot, and it's kind of hard to explain to people. But just like you said, you come to a point, you know, after you've killed so many deer that you're like, okay, I want to try to get something a little better, and then you shoot like you said, a basket rack. I don't know how many basket racks I've killed, and then you're like, okay, like it's time to. But when you shoot that first one, that's when you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like,
Yeah, right.
you know, when I shot that first big one off my grandpa's farm, I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm only going to kill big ones. And
well, what's weird too, and maybe because I've talked to other guys that's had kind of, I wouldn't say the same exact progression, but a very similar progression. I can't say for you guys, because maybe it's different in the states that you hunt, like, Illinois or some of the other bigger buck states, where maybe it's more normal to see a bigger deer on someone's wall. But like, I felt like I hit the Lifetime Achievement Award. And I remember for like 2 days, I kept asking myself, like, where do I go from here? I'm done. Like, I mean, I just did something that should have took me a lifetime. Like, I know no one that has one. And I was just like, I just won. I got the high score. Like, this is it. Like, and I really, like, I remember, like, I didn't even want to hunt for a couple of days. I had another buck tag in my pocket. I just didn't want to hunt it because I thought, like, it doesn't get any better than this. Like, this is the pinnacle. And it took me a couple of days, man, to really figure out, like, I could duplicate this. You know what I mean? Like, I could keep this as my goal. I could, it's possible I could kill 1 or 2 every single year. Like, this is possible.
Yeah, when I killed my first mid 140s with a bow, that's when I was like, wow, I finally did it. I finally accomplished that feat. So it's kind of the same thing as you. 140 is like the scale around here. Pope and Young up there, it seems to be like the scale around here. A lot of people have 140s, but that's like a respectable buck. You know what I mean? And when I finally
Michigan has this thing called the Commemorative Bucks of Michigan, which is like and I don't know if Illinois has something of that nature, where, like, if to make Illinois book, it has to be a certain score. But, like, in Michigan, we have a special award, like, just for bucks here that is very few and far between, and that's 100 inches with a bow.
Wow, that's insane, man.
Yeah, so and I'll tell you this, you drive down the road, and it's getting to be a little different now, but it still is an off factor. You pull up with 100 to 105 inch deer on the back of your truck or car or whatever you're hauling it with, and pulling the gas station, you're going to get mobbed. People are going to be like, oh my God, look at the size of that deer. Like, where'd you shoot that? All the questions come in, and like, oh man, he's gorgeous. And I mean, I shit you not.
That's cool, man.
It's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, here, the mindset is just, it's starting to change. But as I grew up for the last 20 years, maybe up until the last like 2 or 3 years, where quality deer management has kind of taken off a little bit, and guys are starting to hold out for better deer because they want better deer, people go crazy. Like, you're the talk of the town almost, so to speak. It's insane.
Yeah, I feel like everybody all around. I just read yesterday that Illinois' yearling buck harvest was the lowest ever recorded last year. Yeah,
that's a great statistic, though. You know what I mean?
It is.
Like,
yeah, it's
you
an
hear
awesome
that,
statistic.
you're happy as a hunter, because you know that guys are they're itching their trigger fingers on does instead of younger bucks, and they're passing and being more patient. And I really do think that has a lot to do with guys like that have podcasts like you guys, that are other other different hunting entities that are willing to share knowledge, and people are educating themselves to be better hunters. And that means, and also being better stewards, passing younger deer to let them mature and have a chance at actually obtaining a better quality, not just antler size, but more meat too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's I don't really know anybody that killed a yearling that I can think of in my head. So it was pretty cool to see that statistic. Shotgun season was really bad for numbers. So it was like 10,000 lower than it normally is.
Like, everybody we talk to on a daily basis, or, even friends on Facebook, they're like, this is just absolutely crazy.
So it's surprising to me that number isn't so much higher, because everybody's like,
limited.
I got a buck tag.
Yeah.
I want to fill it, and the last day they're shooting yearling deer. So it's pretty cool to see that even though our shotgun season was so bad, that they still weren't shooting.
The numbers were still down.
The numbers were still down. So I was blown away by that, because I figured they would be up, because I know a lot of people that shotgun season's it for them. You know what I mean? That's what they do. They get ready for shotgun season. They go out, they hunt, and they got 2 weekends, and then that's it. So it was cool to see those numbers. But All right, man. Well, we got to know a little bit more about you. What do you do for a living?
Well, I was an engineer for the last, I don't know, 10 years, several years, and I actually retired. And I had a pretty serious car accident in 2017 that really changed the scope of my life and kind of made me be very thankful that I'm still here today. And it made me look back at my life and say, do you want to work the rest of your life, or do you want to do what you love for the rest of your life? And I took that chance to do what I loved, and I started From Bed to Dead. And it was basically wanting to share knowledge and tactics and adventures of not just myself but other like-minded people from Michigan, that were getting it done year in year out, had success, understood deer movement, understood how to get on them, how to kill them, and was willing to be able to present that to the public in a way that we weren't trying to tell people what to do, but more along the lines of like showing people like what has worked for us, and to be able to create sort of like an open conversation and people to follow along to try to help them. And that could be just updates during the time period here in Michigan saying, hey, it's been the first week of season, it's been slow, it's been hot, or we're starting to see bucks pick up. We've saw grunting, we've saw chasing, kind of keeping that storyline along with the year, and also filming it and being able to put a kind of a story together and be able to share that with the public. And so far, we've got some really good traction, a lot of followers, and we were in the middle of releasing our footage from last year and into this season, which we ended up killing as a group. I think nine bucks that scored. I think the smallest one might have been 110, and the biggest going mid 150s, all off public land, and then this COVID situation kind of hit, and then we had a stay at home order. We couldn't get out. We couldn't work with our editors, which our editors are in-house editors, but they live in Muskegon. And I'm from central Michigan. That's 2.5 hours away from me. So like there was no way we were going to be able to get into contact to be able to do this. And if you guys know, and I'm sure you do, trying to do it online compresses your video files and it just doesn't end up turning out very good at all. So we kind of had to put a back burner on that. But during this process, I ended up meeting Cody DeQuisto, and this was probably, a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe, probably a year and a half ago now. And he and I hit it off like immediately. Like we were almost like two peas in a pod. It was crazy. Our lives are so similar. And we exchanged numbers and started talking some more. And, and a good friend of ours, Byron Horton, who runs the Whitetail Experience, he actually is the one that sort of set up the meeting, as you would say, like to introduce each other. And he had told me like, man, you got to meet this guy, and you got to meet Cody. And of course I knew who he was, as an avid hunter. Most people know who the DeQuistos are. So like I knew exactly who he was, and took the chance, met him, we hit it off. And then we just kept in touch, and I don't really know how it kind of got started, but it pretty much got presented like, hey, he was watching some of our stuff and kind of seeing some of our content. And then, of course, when you're exchanging information with somebody, you guys start talking about your deer and your kills. And he just heard me talk about hunting and said, dude, we'd love to have you here, working with our brand with, Lone Wolf Custom Gear, because they just come out with the custom gear line. And, of course, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's awesome, because, I was still focused on From Bed to Dead and building that. And so, having a major player like that stand behind you was really big to me. And we hadn't took a single sponsor ever in, no nothing. Like I always said, like I would never take a sponsor if I didn't believe in who it was, because I don't want to go and look at the public and tell somebody this is the best when maybe it's not the best for them. So I had a real difficult time ever wanting a sponsor. And then when me and Cody started talking, it was a no-brainer for me, because I absolutely believe in their mobile hunting system from Lone Wolf to the point where it is now. And to me, every person, there's many options out there, but to me, it's the best. And I say that with 100%, not even it's not because it's Brandon Dorse. That's really how I feel. And after, kind of doing that, and then, advertising the brand and kind of going through there, I was introduced to a guy by the name of Justin Hollinsworth. He runs Whitetail Addictions on the video side of things, and he approached me, and I was introduced to him by Andre, Cody's dad. And me and him got to talking, and I shared my passion with him and kind of a little bit of knowledge. And he was like, man, like, since you guys are already video and everything else, like, what do you think about videoing for us? And I remember I'm like, dude, don't be kidding me right now. Like, seriously? Like, because I've followed along. I've watched all the YouTube videos of a lot of different things. Most people know who Whitetail Addictions are too. So I was like, no, seriously. He's like, no, I'm serious, man. Like, really? So I joined filming with them and kind of made it be like, hey, look, I still have my company From Bed to Dead, but like, I'll do that as well. And then, from all that, that year and a half of communicating with them, meeting them, working the shows for Lone Wolf Custom Gear, and being in Pennsylvania and being at the Iowa Deer Classic and being able to meet the people, explain about the product, and working close hand in hand with Cody and Andre and Justin and so many more of the guys that are on the staff. I ended up just recently being offered a position within Lone Wolf Custom Gear as their quality control manager of the facility that produces and assembles all the stands and sticks and their product. So that is where I'm at from a professional standpoint now.
Nice, man. Props to you for chasing dream. Yeah, mad respect to the DeQuistos, man. From his dad and Cody, they're straight killers, and we've seen their product at the trade shows. We personally, we have Lone Wolf. We don't have any of the custom gear, but I can't deny it's some of the best out there. I haven't used it personally, so I can't say it is the best, but from the packability to the lightweight, we're good friends with Byron too, and
Awesome.
he shows he shows a lot on his videos, and when they first came out, we were blown away. We went the first ATA show, they were there. We went and checked them out, and then we checked them out last year. The tree arm, great gear, man, and we just had a mobile episode, and we were talking about, if you want to buy gear, buy the best that you possibly can with what money you have, and that stand's going to last you forever. So I agree with you, man. They got a great line, and like I said, mad respect to both of them.
It's all made in America. It's made in America. It's United States, materials. It's produced here, like everything about it, and it's got a lifetime warranty. And if most people understand the Lone Wolf quality brand, in the beginning there were some kinks that needed to be ironed out in a manufacturing issue, which has been taken care of. We've completely moved to a different facility now. Way learning curve that you have, getting back into the game again, but we're getting ready to release the DS5 along with the double step sticks, and some other new stuff that I can't exactly share yet, but it's going to be, we're pushing for it ASAP. Like in June, people are going to be able to buy the stuff off the website.
Nice. So, yeah, we checked out the new stand and the double sticks. Seems like online a lot of people are wanting those double sticks. We're part of the Mobile United.
I'm actually the admin on that.
Oh, yeah, we're part of that group.
Awesome.
And like I said, we're 70% mobile, probably. I would say we're not 100% every hunt, but we do we added up 60 hunts last year.
Yeah.
We had 60 hunts that were hanging hunts combined, and we hunt together most of the time, so it's probably 50, maybe 10 that we were separate. You think?
Yeah,
maybe?
there's a few.
Yeah, we hunt together and film most of the time, but like I said, that's a great group. If any of our listeners are wanting to get into mobile gear and wanting to check that group out, that's a great group to be a part of. A lot of knowledge in there already, and it's only been up for a week or
I was say
2
it's
weeks.
been only a week and a half.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it hasn't been very long, and that's exactly why we created that website. We all sat down and brainstormed, and we wanted a platform that could bring all brands, all mobile hunters, could talk about their equipment, could talk about their knowledge, could share their experience, without being silenced, without in fear of like what you can say and what you can't say. Like, yes, we have 2 rules. We have, please don't bring advertisements asking for followers for your stuff or whatever else. You can post your videos on there, but we find that there's too many issues when you start doing that. And a lot of other people have an issue with that. Like, and I don't know about you guys, but if somebody post a link and I click on it and I enjoy it, I'm going to follow it anyway. So I don't really need to advertise for people to follow our stuff or come check us out. Like, that's, to me, that's where most people are already up with that. And then we don't get in religion or politics, because that's
that's a good idea.
It has nothing to do with deer hunting.
Yeah, but otherwise that, like, you can talk about what you feel like. If there's something that you really, as it gets brought up, or there's something that you want to ask the DeQuistos, if there's a topic you want to discuss, whether it's wind, it's thermals, it's scouting, it's food sources, it's what time of the year, camera placements, gear, if you're gear driven, what's the best camo out there? What's the best, warm? What should I use for this? We're going to talk about it all. And it's the one place. Yes, you've heard me right. I'm going to repeat it one more time. One place that you have full access to Andre DeQuisto and Cody DeQuisto that has never been done. Like, you can ask those 2 guys anything you want and learn from the guy that originated the first set of mobile sticks, the first mobile stand. Everybody that's came afterwards has used that as a carbon copy. He's the standard, period. Look it up.
Yeah, you can't deny that. He's
well,
way
there
back.
are some out there that try, man. You know what I mean? There
Yeah.
are some out there that try, but most of us guys who have done our research, we know, you know what I mean? We understand and we know. So, and that's what's cool about that site to get going. And that's another one of the kind of job titles that I have is, they came to me and said, hey, we want you to run the site, for us. And if you, just by listening to me now, like, dude, you got to really do something wrong in order for me to not want you on the page. Like, you know, you just got to be able to have fun, and that's what it's about, and growing and learning and sharing. I mean, it's a lot of responsibility, but like I said, man, like, you gotta, like, this is what I love to do. This is what I was born to do, talk whitetails, hunt whitetails, and share with other guys and be able to social network. And, that's kind of what brought me to this point.
Nice, man. Well, we're glad you decided to come on here. Let's get into a little bit of public land talk. So, Michigan public land. Go ahead and tell us kind of a rundown of how you approach it and how you hunt it.
Well, I would say one of the first things that you have to understand, and I think this probably goes for anywhere, but we're going to use it just for here, is that you have to have an area that's going to hold the caliber deer that you're looking to shoot. You can't try to manifest an animal that doesn't exist in an area and waste your hunting season trying to hunt down, so to speak, a unicorn when it's just not living in that neck of the woods. So the first thing I like to do is, soon as season's over, and I guess I'll approach this from scouting new area, I want to go to an area and absolutely tear it apart. If it's a mile by mile by mile, I'm going to walk every section of that mile. I'm going to walk the runs back to bedding sites. I am going to look for rubs, whether they were this year's or last year's or, the previous seasons, to generational rubs. I'm looking at how big those rubs are. How high up are they? I'm looking for fresh tracks that are still there that let me know that there's an animal of, more than likely bigger quality of that I might be looking for that's still alive. Um, and then I sort of and I use my Onyx all the time. As soon as I find big rubs, like I mark them on my Onyx. I don't always put big rubs, but I put down marked waypoints. If I find a really good bedding area where I see really good sign, then I'll mark it. And then when I'm done doing all my scouting in that area, I'll look back on that, and then I can match that up with the aerial and start to develop a game plan on, okay, what places do I have to access? Is there a water access? Is there a creek in here? Is there a drainage? Is there a man-made path or a public path? Is there something that will allow me to get in here as undetected as possible, not just from the animals that I'm hunting, but also humans, that other hunters that might be trying to hunt the same area that I'm in. And I would say that deer will tolerate certain intrusions in certain places, but as you move closer to where they're living, that tolerance becomes less. And sort of like, it's okay to bother them, it's not okay to badger them. So that's where I kind of start. And then once I've really tore apart that area, and let's just say I feel like there's a quality animal in there worth going after. Now, mind you, I haven't seen him yet. This is after season. I will go to the surrounding areas that are public, and I will scour those and look for the potential pressured areas that deer might go to if he receives some pressure. Are there big rubs there? Is there, big tracks there? Does he kind of, is there something telling me that deer will go there? He'll use that. And I do the same thing, mark that all up and kind of go through that whole situation. Then as it gets closer to season, I'll start glassing. I'll hang my game cameras on food sources, and start paying attention and trying to lay eyes on what caliber animal this actually is. And if I can pattern him down, is he using this area again? Was this area, if I'm not seeing him early season, I'm not getting cam photos of him. Well, maybe that was rut time sign. Maybe that was pre-rut sign. Maybe, more than likely with the rubs, it's not going to be post-rut sign. It could be, but I generally tend to lead the other way with it. So I kind of start learning when. If I start getting him on early season and he's out in that field all the time, beans or whatever, or I start getting him on an acorn flat all the time, now I've determined, number one, he's for sure alive. Number two, is he a shooter? Isn't he a shooter? Okay, he's a shooter. Now I'm going back to my notes, and I'm also looking at those cam photos that are on the food source in an area where I can go check it like very sparingly, maybe on a rain day, or if I put the cameras in June, July, I might not go back till September, but I go through all those pictures, match up daytime photos to maybe within 45 minutes of when it got dark. And then I start marking those wind directions and start pinning him down on where I think that deer's living. And then once I kind of get a pretty good idea of it, and I'm matching that up with the cam photos and maybe even my glassing, I have a pretty good starting point on where I've got that deer narrowed down and he's going to be at come season opener. And that's when the real chase begins, because up until this point, this is all just a piece of the puzzle. The main part of it is as I'm hunting, I'm also scouting. And if I'm not seeing them, I need to be moving to where I am seeing them. And that would be setting up where that deer is, where I keep thinking until I run into them. And then it's because it's a very, you have to be a very fine line between being aggressive and also kind of sitting back. And once I've seen that deer do the same thing more than one time, I move in for the kill. As long as it's in daylight activity, then I move in, and I'll keep making moves until I kill him or somebody else does.
How big of an area are you covering most of the time, and how many cameras are you running?
How big of an area am I covering? Well, for me, I usually have a couple different areas that because you never want to just go after one buck alone. Like I usually have a couple, well, most years I'll have two or three, and then I usually count on finding one, like I call it a bonus buck, that usually I find when I'm trying to narrow another one down. And depending on how big that deer will be that. But I would say 3 or 4 areas that I really, really hone in on. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same 3 or 4 areas every year either.
Mm-hmm.
And camera wise, as many as it takes to cover the places that I feel like a camera needs to be. Early season, it's a little different because I'm trying to put them on food sources. That could be apple trees, that could be acorn trees, that could, most of the time it's beans, and it's not right in the bean field. Usually it's on the travel corridors to the beans, and I've got my camera either up higher or I've hidden it in a stump or somewhere else. Not only because I don't want the deer to detect it, but I like to keep my cameras, not someone else's.
Yeah, that's for sure. We had that problem last year.
Yeah.
Guys are sneaky, man. So we learned a lot of good tips on that last year. So even if you got a lock on it, make sure you lock the flippy door. If that door has a lock on it, you better have a zip tie or something on it too, or they'll just pull the card and leave the cam.
We're ready this year.
Yeah, we're ready this year. But that's a good approach, man. That's kind of how we do the same thing. Is kind of find where the bucks are, run a broad array of cameras, and then try to work them back to where we think that we can get on them. When you're looking at those cams, is there anything that are you going mostly off time? Are you going off wind direction? What's like the key factor that that, okay, I'm going to make a game plan and I'm going to move in now that I have this intel?
Well, early season for me, depending on where the camera's placed. So if I've got cameras placed on, say, an acorn food source, I'm looking for daylight movement or within 30 minutes of dark movement, because that tells me that deer is on its feet, and consistent movement. And then I'm matching it with what the wind direction is. So if I'm learning a new area and I'm not sure, when is this bedding area being used? Is it a west wind? Is it a northwest wind? Is it an east wind? Until I figure out and say, okay, every time I have an east wind, this bedding area is this deer showing up on camera. Then I have a pretty good idea when it's an east wind, that deer likes to be in that spot. So I kind of do both. Like, I want to see movement. I will be honest with you too. I don't really pay attention to midnight, 1 o'clock movement. Like if it's 2 hours past daylight, the odds of being able to 100% track that deer down, unless you had like a string of cameras, deer can travel a mile in 15 minutes by walking alone. It doesn't take, a deer very long to be able to visit a food source 2.5 miles away. It's really hard sometimes to do that unless it ends up being like I see an absolute slammer and I'm just like, okay, I really want to go after this deer. I'll put forth a little effort into maybe, looking to, I guess, a place that maybe I didn't look before, maybe I overlooked before. But in my experience, that's not happening too often.
Yeah, we figured that out last year, that they move a lot more than you think they do early season. And then it seems like for us, people are like, oh, they move a bunch in the rut, but it seemed like they're condensed in the rut.
Yeah.
And then early season, they're moving to the food sources. So.
Yep, they do, because think of it this way. When those bucks are walking around and they're marking all their territory, they're running in the scrapes. And I'm not saying that, look, there's always an exception to the rule. But most of the time, the pecking order has been established. Those bucks are keeping an eye on those doe groups, and those resident bucks in the area, they know right where they're at. They don't need to leave if there's a lot of does there and they're coming into heat sporadically. The only time they're going to leave is if a different doe comes into estrus from a different area, leads it back, or maybe a bigger buck happens to come into their area, same thing, and pushes that one out. I mean, if the does are there, and there's food there, and the pressure's to up, sort of a minimum, why would a deer have to leave? He doesn't have to. You know what I mean? And some of these guys get a little confused by what they're seeing, and at least I think it's confusion. Most of those younger bucks are not the breeding deer. They're showing the signs of what breeding deer would do, grunting, chasing, whatnot. But you can tell the difference when a 2.5-year-old buck is running this doe all over, and then the 4.5-year-old buck that he's with is just walking along and he don't give a shit.
He knows where he needs to go.
He's like, yeah, you need 3 more days.
He knows that doe is his. There's a difference. And he don't have to posture up that other buck. That little buck don't posture with him. Like, he already knows his thing. He's just going through the motions, So I find that, and that's why, too, in my neck of the woods, that some of my best bedding areas are void of big rubs or any sort of thing, because they don't need to mark their territory and say to other bucks, like, hey, I live here. They're the dominant buck in the area. Like, what buck is going to go into his bedding area and try to take it over? Like, they already know who's boss. So unless there's competition where there's like 2 or 3 big bucks trying to kind of battle over a bedding area, the area, I'm hunting bigger tracts, 20,000 acre pieces of public. The dispersal is like, there's more than enough room for them. And several times I've seen them bucks bedded together, even during the rut.
Yeah, we see bucks together quite a bit in the rut. And
big ones.
Yeah, a lot of times it's 2 of your targets that are cruising together. You're like, what the heck? But that's a good topic you brought up, is if we think...
because guys want you to believe that they're in that. And I'm not saying the competition won't, but the competition is only like that when the doe numbers are at a minimum. When the does are hard to find, that's when the bucks are in more. That's when you're going to see the bigger fighting. That's when you're going to see the more aggressive nature. If there's 20 does in a square mile or in this 200-yard bedding circle and there's 2 big bucks, they're not fighting each other over getting a doe. But if there's 1 doe per 2 miles and 2 big bucks meet each other, there's about to be a throwdown.
Yeah, for sure. Something that you'd brought up about the big rubs, that's something we talk about. There's not, like, our best rut hunting spots, there isn't those like no sign. Early season, we seem to see more bucks around sign, you know what I mean? But during the rut and shotgun, like later in the year, that sign, we don't see.
Well, I mean, the last, few years, we found that sign and hung a cam on it 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, it's just all nocturnal. And we had talked about, the honey set, like, tore up.
Yeah.
All between
nocturnal.
1:30 and 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But if you just walk back there, you're like, holy shit, like I'm in the money.
There's 6-7 ground scrapes, tree scrapes everywhere.
Horizontal rubs.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is it. You know what I mean? And then there's one picture in daylight the whole entire year
the
of a
whole
shooter
year
buck.
on the wrong wind.
Yeah. So I mean, it just goes to show you those.
Here's the thing though with that, okay? I agree with what you guys are saying. A lot of times here on public, sometimes it is that easy though. You walk into an area and it's destroyed, and the first sit in, I catch the shooter on my feet and I'm like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? But there's things that go with that. So I'll try to get into that aspect of it a little. One thing I can tell you, and this is what I paid attention to more than anything else. If that sign is fresh, not 2 weeks ago fresh, I'm talking you walk in one day and you're trying to hunt this area and you see this big rub and you walk over there and you see some shavings on the ground, and then you come back the next day because you're like, well, okay, maybe I'm going to go in a little deeper, and all of a sudden there's a third or second tree that pulls up and there's more shavings on the ground. That deer's there. You got to find him. He's somewhere in that area. Now, This is the part that gets me. Whether you know, even in my spots that I was telling you, my best hunting spots are void of rubs on the inside, and mostly on the outside. Those big rubs I see are on the crop edges, a mile and a half from bedding from where I'm seeing these deer at. But one thing that is always there is tracks, fresh sign. There'll be a scrape, there'll be a licking branch. And sometimes in those watery areas that I like to hunt, there isn't a scrape on the ground, but there is a branch that's tore up on a main travel corridor. And you'll see where the water doesn't have a chance to get scum on it because the trail is fresh going in. You know, you'll see it coming in, coming out, bubbles, those tracks on the road, you know, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that starts to get me when I'm, you know, because those funnels that show up on the map, like outstanding, and you see them, that's what every hunter sees too. And don't think that they ain't going there. That's where they're going to go. Like, it's a guarantee. You're looking for what I consider to be the overlooked funnels, and they might not even be funnels, but it's will move through once there's pressure put in, and that could be a terrain feature, that could be a slight elevation change, it might just be, you know, a transition area from cattails to red brush, or you know, and I'm just giving a hypothetical here, but that's what I'm really keying in on. And then when you find those areas, you'll start to find the kind of sign that leads from bedding area to bedding area that becomes an area where, okay, I need to post up here because during the rut, like, it's going to happen. He's going to cruise by. I know one will. And then those are those areas that are my all day sitters. And I normally don't have to sit there very many days before I end up finding what I'm looking for.
I like that tip, man. A lot of people say hunt the fresh sign, but they don't break it down like that. So that makes more sense to me. You know, if you're seeing some sign there and the next day you go in, when I killed that 9-pointer on public, what was it, like 6 years ago or 7, something like that. That's what had happened. I had seen a rub. I'd set up on it, nothing. The next day I went to hunt, it was Halloween night, and there was like 4 more rubs. And I was like, oh, shit, something's been in here fired up. And I think that's when Evercom first came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I had like put some Evercom on that rub, and I was like, oh, this stuff's got him fired up. You know what I mean? He's in here ripping stuff up. And I ended up shooting that buck that night. And I had already had a stand pre-hung there, though. But with that, you know, that makes, because you hear that on a lot of podcasts, hunt the fresh sign, hunt the sign, hunt the sign. But no one's breaking it down like you just did, where that, in my head, that makes sense. But that's probably what they're meaning. But for me,
I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes here, okay? Not at all. And I am probably not the most politically correct person. I like to say what's on my mind. I will tell you something that's happening in the industry, and you guys are podcasting, so you guys have probably seen it too. There are a lot of guys that like to use the lingo but don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, we see that quite a bit.
Trying to educate people and tell them, and they're pretending. There's numerous, you know, hunting people that are on YouTube, whatever, and they're using the lingo because they've heard other guys say it, but they can't really break it down so you can understand it. They don't really understand they heard it, but they didn't see it happen. And that's why it's different when you talk to a guy, and I'm not saying myself, but you've heard it from guys like the DeQuistos. When you're a hunter and they start talking about something and you can nod your head because you're like, yeah, I seen that. Yep, that's right. That makes sense because I've seen this happen this way. That's how you know it's something worth writing down. It's something worth remembering because you know it's true. You've been able to visually see it with yourself. And I always challenge people that you know, approach us or that I talk to. If it doesn't work and you've never seen it, why would you still be using it? Why would you still be doing it? You know what I mean? Because a lot of guys get upset and they get burnt and they're like, dude, I must be doing something wrong. Like, I found this one single bed and I sat over it like 3 different times at 3 different times. Man, I never saw a deer come out of there. I even went in there and tried to bump it and it was nothing. Well, man, there's so many more factors. And not only that, you're looking for primary bedding areas, not just one specific bed. Like, Can it happen where one specific bed works? Yes, but you're looking for like super bedding. You know what I mean? Primary bedding where there's like many beds in it, many deer are bedding in there, not just bucks, but sometimes does too. Like you're looking for those best areas that are holding deer and trying to hone in on them and find out if there's a deer of the caliber that you're trying to go after. And if
Yeah.
you can't put that into words for people to understand, then in my estimation, this is just my opinion. Like, I don't feel like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I could agree. We hear a lot of people say that kind of stuff. We always try to make sure and say, "Hey, this is what we've learned. This is what works best for us," but it's probably wrong because we're not like any cold-blooded killers. We've killed some bucks, but we've hunted, for a while, but
It's always a last minute, last
Yeah.
day, typical bullshit.
It's always,
something's messed up.
but I like
So
how
what
you said that too. That's what we
guys
do.
are the determination, perseverance guys. Like you
Yeah.
put enough time in the woods that eventually it's going to come.
Yeah, that's where I put us.
Yeah.
We're learning, we're getting better, but we're at that. We're just earning them by working. You know what I mean? We're just hunting a shitload, and
I'm the same way you guys are. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I'm applying knowledge, but when I sit down and listen to guys like Andre talk and Heath, Cisco, and I listen to Troy Pottinger message on the Mobile Hunter United page, like, dude, those guys got my undivided attention because they're killers.
Oh yeah,
Like,
Heath,
Oh, yeah.
we had Heath on like episode 70 or something. Man, it was
I think
just
it
way.
was-
insane. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Like, people don't understand the wealth of knowledge that's out there, and who to pay attention to. And these guys don't go around bragging and showing all their wall off and everything else, but you just know they know what they're talking about by being able to listen and learn from them. And these guys are so approachable. Like, no stupid question is even possible. Like, they love talking whitetails. And I'm just learning, compared to these guys who've been doing it for years. I'm just a young buck, like, learning how to get it done. And yeah, I've had some success, and yeah, there's certain things that work well for me, but I'm not going to sit here and try to tell everybody that I reinvented the wheel or I'm doing something magical that someone else doesn't have. So you need to listen to me over here. Like, I've just took a lot of knowledge that's been passed down and applied it. And yeah, I guess I have a few things that I do that are, a little different, but you'll see a common thread with all the guys that are very successful. They're very detail oriented. They're very, I have a plan. I have a system. This is what I do. I know what I'm going to do. My backpack is packed precisely. Like, they know all their surroundings, and it's not by accident that they year in, year out, they keep putting themselves in the best positions to kill the best deer that they can find and that they get on.
Yeah, I could agree. It's like a lot of people. It's still fun hunting, but to me, it's not a game. Like a lot of people, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going hunting. For me, it's like serious shit. Like it's time to go. And I feel like when you get to that point, you're like, okay. I always tell homie, we got to be in the right mindset. Because we got to go in there like this could be it, and it's hard to be like that every time you go. But I feel like those guys that are killers are the ones that every time they go in, they're ready.
We call it the grind, man. Like, you know what I mean? It is. It's a grind. When you've been hunting 14 days solid, 4 a.m. wake-up calls, getting home at 10, you're scratching your head trying to figure out, like, I'm on that drive home, and I'm like, dude, okay, I saw him. He was 80 yards out. Why was he here today? But yesterday I saw him 100 yards out. Or how come I didn't see him? To getting home and my mind's being racked by it. And I know I'm getting up at 4 a.m. the next day because I've came up with a game plan on the way here. And I'm using those morning sits as scouting sits too. Like, it ain't just like, I'm not fumbling in the dark going in an area just blunderously. Like, I'm being very calculated, to having that on the way home, to taking 5 bites out of my food and falling asleep, and my wife's grabbing my plate, waking me up at 12 saying, baby, coming to bed. And I've got 4 hours to wake up and do it again. Like, it's a grind. Like, it ain't just like, you know what I mean? We joke around about it, but like, it ain't for the faint of heart, dude. Like, that's why we use the lightest weight gear. That's why I endorse Lone Wolf Custom Gear like I do, because that's a 5.25 pound stand. They're DS5, and their other stand which, the heaviest stand is 7.5 pounds, man. Like, it's ridiculous. We can, my total setup in the woods, camera arm, everything is just over 11 pounds. That's stand, that's sticks, and that's a camera arm. That's insane for a guy who does it like I'm doing it and gets up every day, don't miss a day, is just constantly on the grind, setting up, taking down, setting up, taking down. Like, that is insane.
Yeah, you gotta have it, man. That if you had anything, heavy, if you had a heavy stand, that third day going back, you'd just be like, I'm not gonna make it this afternoon, or I'm not gonna make it.
And you know what it's like because you guys carried the big dog stands.
Yeah.
I carried them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Before I first bought it, like, I remember carrying a lock-on stand, and not the Windwalker originally, like the old LEM with the chain on it, and you know what I mean, and like going out, and like it was heavy, and I remember like carrying these like screw-in steps, and yeah, you look at one, you're like, oh, it's not too heavy, but then you put like 15 in a pack, and it's like 8 pounds.
Yeah.
You're like, Jesus,
Yeah,
your wrist kill you, like, and then it was a pain in the neck, like, it's so much. And then now, with hunting this style, the advancements that have coming out now, it's insane, from guys that are hunting, from a saddle and being able to use a platform like the ambush, to guys that are even bigger. You've got bigger guys like Jeremy Beck that's hunting and hauling his mobile setup back and forth. They're trying to go with the best, lightest weight, sturdiest as possible for their style hunting. And that's what custom gear was really all about, was the fact that we could customize to any hunter's needs. And that's why it's so imperative for me, and for other guys, like, you guys haven't got a chance to use it yet, but you know what? I hope one day you will, because once you actually get your hands on it, be able to put it together like it is, put your backpack on, it's not just that 11 pounds like I talked about, it's the way it sets on your back. It feels like half that weight. Like, it's a tool just like anything else, just like your bow, just like your arrows, just like your broadheads. Like, and to me, there is, for my style hunting, I hunt sometimes 2.5 miles back, and that's one way. Like, I gotta have a 5-pound stand or a 7.5 pound stand, like, because it makes it easier on me, and I had back surgery from my accident. Those are major pluses to me, and I've seen it numerous times on the forums where guys are like, well, I mean, don't be such a pussy. Like, well, why do you gotta carry a 15-pound stand if you don't need to?
If someone's saying don't be a pussy, they ain't doing it for 2 weeks straight.
But that's my point, though, is I hear those statements and I think to myself, like, man, you must not hunt like I do, because I'm not saying I can't do it, but my body is not going to like me for doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want the lightest weight possible setup I can, because of just how we talked about with the tactics I'm using. Like, I'm not sitting the same spot very often. Like, outside of the pre-rut, or if I know for a fact, like, look, I tomorrow the wind direction is going to be perfect for this, I got to be here. Like, my stand is in a new tree in a new spot, even if it's 20 yards over every single hunt. Like, I can't be afforded to have a setup that's not quiet, or that's not mobile, that can't fit in any tree, that can't have the leveling capabilities. I can't.
Yeah, we understand that, man. Like I said, we started off with the stuff, and we have what we have now. It works good. We got a good system, but I could see, we would lose a couple pounds with the custom gear, and it packs super nice. Sticks are nice. Not saying we won't ever try it, but we're kind of invested in what we got right now. But to all our listeners, man, if you're like, we just had the podcast a while back, buy the best possible gear you can with the money you got, because in the long run, it's going to be worth it. And if that's whatever brand it is, man, just to get the best you can and go from there. But the custom gear it's no joke. It's solid stuff. We know multiple guys that run it and absolutely love it. So guys that we trust, like Byron, and he loves it, man. He does a lot of, all pack-in hunts. So
Yep.
So just like you.
Yeah. But. And like I said, like, I'm not here to tell you guys there are other options out there available. And I tell guys this all the time, even when I'm at the shows. Go look at all the other stuff. you might like something different, like in an honesty, like, but once you've used it all and you've tried it all, I'll see you back here.
Yeah.
Because no one has the ability to put your backpack on your stand like this. No one's stand is even as close. There's not a stand out on the market right now that's even close to even our heaviest stand that we have. The way that the sticks pack, the way we don't have to use bungees, the aiders that you can use to shorten sticks. I mean, and this is crazy, but the aider with a mini is longer than a full and it's half a pound lighter. Like, that's insane. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just those abilities to be able to do that, and like I said, it might not be for you. You might be a muddy guy. There's a lot of guys that love Muddy Pro sticks. There's a lot of guys that are, other brand stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that, because the equipment necessarily, and I'm a firm believer in having the best equipment you can, but if you perfected your system down and you're quiet and you're playing the wind and you're putting all the work in, that's what's going to kill your deer, man. That's what's going to kill them.
For sure. With the nice equipment just makes the fifth day you doing it a little easier to do it.
Well, it's just about ease of setting up. It's about saving weight, which, makes it better for that reason. But, they were killing big deer long before, mobile stands even came out. It's just something that helps and aids you in what you're trying to do and be able to repeat it continuously. That's really what it boils down to.
For sure. Well, man, we appreciate you coming on. This is a great episode, dude. I love this chat. We could talk to you for a long time. I know that for sure. But go ahead and let the listeners know where they can find you and where they can watch your videos when they come out and all that good stuff.
Okay, well, we have a Facebook page, From Bed to Dead. We're on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. Right now, we currently only have our trailer out right now because of the COVID situation, but we are working, and it's going to be released before the hunting season this year. I believe we have 7 episodes. We do have some product reviews that are coming, but unlike a lot of other people who are doing the unbox the product, but not really put it to the test. We're waiting for a whole season to be able to review those products. So I know that they want to get out there, but we want to give everybody a representation of what we're using and if it works. You can also find us and find me on the Lone Wolf Custom Gear page, Whitetail Addictions, Mobile Hunters United. And for all those people, like we said before, that are looking to learn, share their hunting experience, just talk whitetails, for anything mobile hunting or hunting in general, visit us, come join the page. We're not a private page, we're a public page. There's 2 rules, no advertisements, no religion, no politics. Otherwise that, you can talk about what you want, within reason. We do allow a little bit of swearing and stuff on there as long as people aren't going off on other people. But that's where you're going to be able to find me, find our brand, and visit lonewolfcustomgear.com to find out any of the potential sales that are going to be out, when the release of certain things are out. And look, coming in June, that our stands are going to be coming out in sticks, and all of our products that you've seen at the ATAs and you've seen at the hunting shows. It has been underway. With the COVID finally starting to get lifted up, people are going to have an opportunity to get those before season starts. So if you've been waiting, it's almost here.
Nice, man. Well, yeah, I second that. Join that Mobile Hunters United. A lot of good people on there, a lot of good content, stuff for people that have already been in the mobile game or people that are wanting to just learn. We get a lot of questions about mobile setups and how we're doing stuff, so that's a really good place to ask questions, like you said, and you can ask questions to people that actually know what they're doing instead of us. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, Jason, man. It's been an awesome podcast.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and look forward to following along with you guys, kind of what your season is, and the future podcasts that you guys have.
Man, I really enjoyed this episode. He broke down some tactics that people talk about, but he kind of dove into them and explained it a little bit more, which I feel like a lot more people need to do when they're talking about that. And I think there's a lot of content that people can learn on this episode, whether they're just getting into hunt public ground, or a lot of the stuff he was saying, like you start thinking about it, you're nodding your head. We're both in here like, yeah, you know. So this is a great episode. We hope you guys enjoyed. Check him out on Bed to Dead, and if you're in the market for some mobile gear, check out Custom Gear. Great gear. A lot of other gear on the market. But like I said, we haven't ran Custom Gear, so we can't vouch for what they are, what they got going on. But we've seen it. Pack super nice, and we also have a lot of buddies that are running the stuff. Shout out Byron from Whitetail Experience. He got a little mention in this episode, and he loves the gear. So if you're wanting to get in the mobile game, like we said a couple episodes ago, we released one just of us talking about how we run mobile, some setups, some gear that we use. Go ahead and check that episode out if you haven't. Might learn something there. Always do the right thing, leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy's out.